Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ke Jai Vishpad Paramahamsa Prabhajikacharya Sotara Sata Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Gaur Premanande. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Padale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharne Nivishesha Srinyadi Paschatya Desatarne. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 29th chapter, talks between Narada Muni and King Pachinabarhi, text number 41. Etar Upadruto Nityam Etar upadrito nityam Jiva loka sabhavajai Jiva loka sabhavajai Na koroti harer nunam Na koroti harer nunam Kata amrita nidao ratim Kata amrita nidao ratim Etar upadrito nityam Jiva loka sabhavajai Nakorati harer nunam Katamritam Katarita nidharatim Etar upadrito nityam Jiva loka sabhavajai Nakorati harer nunam Katamrita nidharatim Etar upadrito nityam Jiva loka sabhavajai Nakorati harer nunam Is that everybody? Etai, by these. Upadrutaha, disturbed. Nityam, always. Jivaloka, the conditioned soul in the material world. Swabhavajai, natural. Nakaroti, does not do. Hare, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nunam, certainly. Kata, of the words. Amrita, of nectar. Nidhau, in the ocean. Ritim, attachment. Translation: because the conditioned soul is always disturbed by the bodily necessities, such as hunger and thirst, it has very little time to cultivate attachment to hearing the nectarian words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please repeat. Because the conditioned soul is always disturbed by the bodily necessities, such as hunger and thirst, it has very little time to cultivate attachment to hearing the nectarian words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Unless one is associated with devotees, he cannot cultivate Krishna consciousness. Nirjana, bhajana. Cultivating Krishna consciousness in a solitary place is not possible for the neophyte, for he will be disturbed by the bodily necessities, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Being so disturbed, one cannot cultivate Krishna consciousness. We therefore see that devotees known as Sahajya, who make everything very easy, do not associate with advanced devotees. Such persons, in the name of devotional activities, are addicted to all kinds of sinful acts: illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. There are many so-called devotees passing themselves off as devotees while engaging in these sinful activities. In other words, one who is influenced by sinful activity cannot be accepted as a person in Krishna consciousness. A person addicted to sinful life cannot develop Krishna consciousness as indicated in this verse. If we could pray, please. Om Jnana-timirandasya Ginanjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karana Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakopatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're hearing the flips. I should start off with, for those who were expecting to hear Bhadrinarayan Swami speak, I'm sorry that he's not here able to. He's on the mend. He's getting better, isn't it? A lot better. Good news. Your prayers certainly have effect. So hopefully next week he'll be here giving class. Having said that, Tapas Prabhu, I think I'm going to try and glorify the transcendental Cupid. That's the title for the class, Transcendental Cupid. And I took heart in hearing the verse, seeing the verse by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, that even a foolish child can describe the, how did he say it? The blissful activities of the Supreme Lord by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we've all prayed for his mercy. Hopefully some nectar can come. This verse is the flip side of yesterday's two verses that Balaram Prabhu spoke on. We were hearing about the necessity of associating with devotees. Why? What's the benefit of associating with devotees? You'll get to hear them speak the transcendental glories of the Lord. You'll get to have instruction, correction given to you by the devotees of the Lord. You will become infected with the qualities they possess by following their example. Here it's saying, please chant, chant, chant. Can't. Don't have any time. Too busy. They're disturbed, always disturbed by the bodily necessities. Now, yesterday's verse, this is just 3 verses from what Dravida, he likes to label things, categorize things, what he calls Sadhu Ashtakam from the 25th chapter, 3rd canto, Kapila's teachings. This is the positive part. Engage constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they're always filled with thoughts of my pastimes and activities. Can't help but think of that when Prabhupada said something like that. The devotees went, huh? Well, what are we doing? Meaning, I'm suffering. But no, the more we become absorbed in constantly hearing and chanting about Krishna, these miseries become so insignificant. O my mother, text 24, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of material attachment. I asked Dravida what pernicious meant last time I spoke. Does anybody remember what he said? Poisonous. Yeah. Association with the devotees counteracts the poisonous effects of material attachment. And the association of pure devotees, I think this was in your purport. Yeah, 25th verse. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he's freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotional service begins. In the Sanskrit, you'll hear at the last line of the verse, Shraddha, so there's the faith, and then the Ratir. We're trying to develop Ratir. That's what this verse is talking about. Attraction, attachment to hearing the nectarian glories of the Lord. Kata Amrita. So from Shraddha, associating with the devotees, by following the process of sadhana bhakti, that attachment will develop. And sometimes we like to optimistically think, yeah, I have attachment, I have taste. Yeah, we have to admit there's something there, or you wouldn't be sitting here. You wouldn't be engaged in this process. But this ratir, which leads to this taste, which leads to bhava and bhakti, the last verse, Shraddha ratir bhaktir anukrimishyati. This bhakti, that's when we're talking about Shuddha bhakti. Bhava bhakti is in the sprouting of the seed of love of Godhead. Real bhakti, absolute definition, means prema bhakti. That's the goal. That's what everything we do is meant to reawaken within us, to uncover within us. So, real taste means you're not bothered in the least by the disturbances of the body or the mind, because you're just absorbed in the glories of Krishna. And we have experience of that in our own lives. When you are fully focused on something, isn't it amazing how quickly the time can pass? Or you're so absorbed in, say, a class or a kirtan or whatever, and then after the kirtan's over, you realize, oh yeah, my gosh, I forgot my knees are shot, and what was I doing dancing? When you're absorbed, then everything else goes to the side. You know, tunnel vision, it all just kind of fades away. So for the pure devotee, rendering spiritual service to the Lord on the spiritual platform, then these bodily necessities, these miseries that come due to our inhabiting this body, they're taken as insignificant. There's a verse spoken by Lord Shiva in glorification of Chitraketu. You might know this verse. If you do, we'll hand you the microphone, where he says, the devotees of the Lord, or either one of you, Prabhus, devotees of the Lord, they don't care whether they're in heaven, hell, or for liberation. They don't care because they're fully absorbed in the glorification of Krishna. It starts off with Narayan, one of those verses. Give him a microphone. This is from the 6th canto. Can you move your mask for a moment?
Narayana para sarvena kutaschana bibhayati sarga apavarga narakesu apitulyartha darshanam.
They're just absorbed in the darshan and the glories of the Lord. Anything else, they don't care. As Prabhupada said, you go to heaven, take a typewriter to heaven, what will it do? Now this is an old analogy, now it's all computers, but click, 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 click. It'll type. Take it to hell, what will it do? Click, 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 click. A devotee does the same thing wherever. So if we want to come to that platform of absorption and attachment for the glories of the Lord, in the second canto, Shukadev Goswami encourages Parikshit, O descendant of King Bharata, this is 2:1-5, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify and remember the personality of Godhead, who's the super soul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries. So this is our process. Become absorbed in chanting Hare Krishna and cultivating the process of Krishna consciousness. Awareness of Krishna. Dravida Prabhu shared with us the other day, Bhakti, that verse about greed, loyam, that's where he coined the term of Krishna consciousness. Do you remember what the Sanskrit term was of that? Can he have a microphone? Engaging this body in service to the devotee.
Krishna Bhakti Sapavitamati Kriyatam Yarikatopi Lavite Tartaloyam Apimoyam Janmakoti Sukaterna Lavite.
Now the translation.
That one cannot attain Krishna Bhakti by performing many pious activities for millions of years, but one can attain this Krishna Bhakti by paying one price, and that is intense desire or intense greed to have that Krishna Bhakti.
So Bhakti, Rasa, and then what would be the next word to complete?
Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati.
Rasa?
Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita.
Bhavita. Bhava would be the bhav. So the absorption in the rasa of Krishna Bhakti. Eloquently put into the term Krishna consciousness. So unfortunately, the conditioned souls of this material world, what was that? Jiva Loka. They are, as Lord Brahma describes in the third canto, what is it, I think fourth chapter. Oh my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all material miseries, material anxieties, forgive me. They're embarrassed by all material anxieties. They're always afraid. Boy, is this apropos for the atmosphere of the world today. They're always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. And they're filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia. And they avariciously, there's that greed, but in madness going for that which is material. They avariciously base their undertakings on the perishable conceptions of my and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of such anxieties. So once again, this is Lord Brahma speaking to the Lord. He says, "O my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all-auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate and are also bereft of good sense." So if you're not manifesting the symptoms of devotion, absorption in Krishna consciousness and hearing, chanting, and all that goes along with it, then you are not possessing good sense. You're not manifesting good sense. You're going to be manifesting the anxiety and the absorption in that which is temporary. We can easily see this in the verse. Those persons who are bereft of the all-auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate and also bereft of good sense. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratification for a very little while. O great actor, my Lord, all these poor creatures are constantly perplexed by hunger, thirst, severe cold, secretion, and bile, attacked by coughing winter, blasting summer, rains, and many other disturbing elements, and overwhelmed by strong sex urges and indefatigable anger. I take pity on them, and I'm very much aggrieved for them. O my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. We hear it every day. We really have to rewire the software within ourselves. O my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, He cannot get out of the entanglement of material miseries being influenced by your external energy. Now, this is describing the conditioned souls, but in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about apparent devotees, so-called devotees. He's singling out the sahajas. They're not the only cheating devotees. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his time, in his day, and I'm sure it has some relevance still, but he said there are 13 cheating types of devotees according to their activities and their philosophies. Owls, bows, sahajiyas, jati, brahmas, saki bedis, etc. And you might think, oh, well, that's some group of losers over in India. But we have devotees, even in Krishna consciousness movement, where they are hypocrites and cheaters. Prabhupada has said so in his purports, Chaitanya Charitamrita, or in his letters, the one that comes to mind. He was complaining to a leader of his and saying, I'm getting so many letters from my various leaders complaining about this and that and this and that, their lack of enthusiasm. From this I can deduce they're not following the regulative principles. The foundation is the 16 rounds minimum and the following of the 4 regulative principles. And if you're solidly standing on that foundation, then, it's like the car with the car wax. We talked about automobile service, and it was kind of put down. It apparently had the impression, they were waxing their car. Well, actually, that's, you Prabhus should do that for Krishna's cars, too. You want them to go the mile, go the distance, last for years. I have a car that's over 20 years old, still going. Looks like crap, but still engaging in service. That's what you do. You maintain. That's what a Brahmin does. You don't see it as your car or the temple car. That's even worse. If it's your car, you'll take care of it. If you're paying the insurance on it, making the payments, you'll take care of it. Possession turns sand into gold, they say. But Krishna's, when I joined, I said I gave away most of the things. I didn't give away my little car. I had a Nissan. And, gave it to the temple when we moved in. It was just a few months before that thing was neglected and abused by not even putting the oil in when needed, and they blew up the engine. It was about 3 months because it wasn't theirs. Well, if you view anything and everything in the temple that's outside of your shelf, your closet, your room, as not mine, that's just the flip side of my. It's illusion. You're not seeing it. It's worshipable paraphernalia of Krishna. Take care of it. If you do that, Krishna very much appreciates. So I started off the way before I made that right turn, was that chanting minimum 16 rounds and following the 4 regulative principles is the foundation from which these miseries, they become more and more insignificant. They bother us less and less. It's just a fact. I'm going to suffer in this body. The body is going to suffer. We signed up for it. But by the mercy of Krishna, we've been given the process to get totally off of the bodily platform, material platform, and come to the spiritual platform. And I was talking about cheating devotees. So even in ISKCON, Prabhupada, he wrote the purport while in the association of Burijan and Jagatarini in Hong Kong. He told them, if you have trouble with other devotees, because you think they're off, whatever you do, don't leave the society. But you can come and take shelter of the spiritual master, get reinforced, and then take on your service in the association with those devotees that had discouraged you once again. The temples are like hospitals. Basically, it's understood we're all patients here. And to greater or lesser degrees, we're infected with the materialistic disease. To the degree that we're manifesting the qualities of a Vaishnava, to that degree, we're great association. by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. But it's inevitable. We're going to step on each other's toes. And as long as you understand, well, they're in the shower getting cleaner and cleaner by the day. If you understand that I'm just as sick, if not more so than them, or even if you think you're more advanced or senior, then you should take the aspect of service of kindly supporting the devotees by your example, by your reciprocations. But we have to appreciate each other. Krishna loves each and every one of us, loves everyone. Guru loves each and every one of us. Not that he loves anyone more than he does anyone else. It's just that it depends upon the acceptance and the reciprocation from the disciple, the subordinate, to what degree it appears like, wow, they're really getting the mercy. Why? Because they're accepting it, they're taking it, utilizing it, and it is fully manifesting. The more you accept and give out, taking advantage and applying, the more you receive. It's the way it works in Krishna consciousness. It's that inconceivable. It's not material at all. The more you give away of something in the material world, before you know it, it's gone. But in Krishna consciousness, the more you give, the more it comes, the more it expands. It's unlimited. 1 + 1 = 1 in Krishna consciousness, the absolute truth. And 1 - 1 = 1. It's always Krishna and his energies. So, associating with devotees is so important, and protecting ourselves from the association of non-devotees, very important. Both in the verse of the Nectar of Instruction that tells us the 6 ways to increase our bhakti that are advantageous to reawakening our pure bhakti. What is it? Jana Sangas. And in the one the things to run away from that are disadvantageous to advancing. What is it? Not Satovrte, but Tyaga Sangat. Both verses, whether good or bad, it's talking about don't bring the non-devotees to your chest. Don't take on their qualities or behavior. It will only hurt the cultivation of your eternal relationship with Krishna and affect your relationships with the devotees. Now I want to turn to the transcendental Cupid. Like Dravida said, this is the day, the holiday that's launched 1,000 Sunday feast lectures. Well, before I enter into trying to glorify Krishna, the transcendental Cupid, Kamadev, the transcendental Cupid, I'm going to quote an answer that Jayapataka Swami gave to one devotee. It was along the lines where he asked Maharaj, okay, we have a few moments. Is there some instruction that you would like to share with your disciples? And he went on to explain about Vaishnav Seva. That's how I would have categorized it. He went on, he didn't put it in those terms, but this is how the purport of Vaishnav Seva. He said, be kind to each other, help each other, care about each other. It doesn't simply mean that I will dance in kirtan and hopefully encourage you to dance. It also means, like when you were going yesterday to the thing, make sure you bring a coat. That's something an older devotee might think. Prabhupada would sometimes ask, don't you have a coat? It's cold. You have to take care of this body. That's supposedly the theory of these things covering your face. You're supposed to take care of the body because it's Krishna's. It's not ours. It's actually worshipable. That's what we do every day. We worship the spiritual master, and because his body is fully engaged in the service of the Lord 24/7, 365, eternally, it's not a material body. It's a spiritualized body. And it's worshipable. His body, his mind, his words, his activities, he himself. They're all worshipable because they're totally connected in activities pleasing to Krishna. So, support each other, care for each other. Also means the emotional needs. You know, when somebody has their toes stepped on by one Prabhu in the ashram, it is nice if they feel secure enough to turn to another Prabhu and kind of like share, man, I know I'm supposed to be humble, I know I'm supposed to be tolerant, but. And then you listen. Let them get it off their chest. And then give good counsel. That, yeah, we should be humble and tolerant and respectful, etc. As a Madhyam Adhikari or an aspiring Madhyam Adhikari, it's not that we just love and serve Krishna. We're supposed to be friends with the devotees. And Jayapataka Swami throughout the decades has shown that example. Perfect example that was manifest in the life of Srila Prabhupada with all those who came in his contact. It's compassion. And the devotee, when he heard this type of answer, he said, but that's all just moral. That's moral and ethical advice. And he said, that's the problem with the Hare Krishnas. They'll speak such high philosophy, but they won't even take care of each other. Somebody gets sick, you know, and days later you realize, oh God, where is he? I haven't seen him. Is he okay? Prabhupada said, no, take care. These are Krishna's servants. So that's a platform, that's an introduction for when we talk about the lofty ideals of Krishna Prem, love. Today, there's going to be millions, if not billions. I don't know how widespread, but I know the Vaishyas of this world will try their best to push any holiday that allows them to sell stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not observed in Europe. Wouldn't surprise me. Australia. I don't know. I can ask later on. Probably. Valentine's Day. What was used? Give him a mic. It's a valuable contribution.
Yeah, we were in Kunacharana Prabhu and myself. We stopped in Hong Kong for a few days at the temple there, but huge. It was during around Christmas time. Christmas huge there. You know, advertisements, this and that. Christmas huge. So
this is in a country where they didn't even have a name for God, a word for God in their language, but they'll celebrate Christmas. Yeah. Ho, ho, ho. So today, billions of people will be saying, I love you. And billions of roses, that might be an exaggeration, lots of roses will be offered to your love. Lots of cards will be offered, you know, related to, may my attraction to the message of Krishna, the Bhagavatam, be like that of the lover reading the beloved's letter. You know, there's so much glorification of your qualities and my love for you. What else? Chocolates? Oh, that's a big one. It's going to be a lot of chocolate given away. So anyway, love, love, love. All you need is love. What's his name? Kaylee, one of Bhishma's friends up there in Michigan. You know, Kaylee Bindu. He's a singer, a musician, very talented. He sang that song, what the world needs now is love, love, love. It's the only thing. There's too little love. Easily, and then he chanted the Maha Mantra. Beautiful, beautiful. Dovetailing that propensity in that particular song. Well, the Chaitanya Charitamrita says there's two kinds of love in this world. There's pure and adulterated love. And pure love, the symptom is that you become mad for the pleasure of Krishna. You become mad for the association of Krishna. And adulterated love is what we see today and every day in the material world, where that love is being reflected or communicated through the material concept, the modes of material nature. And therefore we become mad for the desire and the engagement in sense gratification, which is the cause of all the sufferings. I love the point that Balaram Prabhu made. I think he gave credit to Chaitanya Chandra, was it? Where Charan Prabhu, where he said, everybody's having sex, but where's the happiness? What's the deal? It's supposed to be the greatest happiness in the world. Well, the world's really screwed up right now, if you haven't noticed, despite all the sex and the proliferation of all the variations of that activity. So adulterated sex, or love, I should say, is not love, it's lust. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami compares it to iron. And of course, love for Krishna, which is pure and selfless, is compared to gold. The desire to gratify one's own senses is kama or lust, but the desire to please the senses of Lord Krishna is prema. You know that verse, Bengali? Can he say? Who's closer to the mic?
Atmendir priti vanchitar balikam, Krishnandir priti ichadar premanam. That love is to satisfy the senses of Krishna, and lust is trying to satisfy our own senses.
Bengali is such a beautiful language. They don't chant Sanskrit in Vraj. They do, but it's not the language that they commonly converse in. It's Vraj. It's Braj. But in Navadvip, Goloka Vrindavan, they speak Bengali. Beautiful language, spiritual language. So Srila Prabhupada, talking about the in relationship to sexual love, it's a matter of personal sense enjoyment. All the regulative principles in the Vedas pertain to desires for popularity, fatherhood, wealth, and so on, are different phases of sense gratification. So that's why Krishna told Arjuna, Naistrayunyo Bhava Arjuna. The Vedas deal mainly, the biggest bulk of the Vedas deal with sense gratification. That's why Vyasadeva was so unsettled and dissatisfied, because he'd spent too much time and emphasis on the sense gratification, or certainly more covert, but liberation. Still sense gratification, selfish. So, Srila Prabhupada continues, acts of sense gratification may be performed under the cover of public welfare, nationalism, religion, altruism, ethical codes, biblical codes, health directives, fruitive action, bashfulness, tolerance, personal comfort, liberation from material bondage, progress, family affection, or fear of social ostracism or legal punishment. But all these categories are different subdivisions of one substance, sense gratification. All such good acts are performed basically for one's own sense gratification, for no one can sacrifice his personal interests while discharging these much advertised moral and religious principles. But above all this is a transcendental stage in which one feels himself to be only an eternal servitor of Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead. All acts performed in this sense of servitude are called pure love of God. Servitude. Sounds good enough to me. All acts performed in this sense of servitude are called pure love of God because they are performed for the absolute sense gratification of Sri Krishna. However, any acts performed for the purpose of enjoying its fruits or results is an act of sense gratification. Such actions are visible sometimes in gross, sometimes in subtle forms. So sometimes people will say God is love. And there's validity to that. But if you really want to be specific, it would be more apt to say that Srimati Radharani is love. Because as is explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Krishna, he has unlimited energies, but for our understanding, basically they're divided into three. And the Hladini potency, the pleasure-giving potency of Krishna, that is Srimati Radharani. She's the personification of his pleasure potency. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that the essence of the pleasure-giving potency of Krishna is love. Love of Godhead. And the essence of love of Godhead is emotion. Bhava. And the essence of bhava, or emotion, is Mahabhava. And that's Srimati Radharani. In fact, Mada, Vakyana, there's 5 different stages in Mahabhava even. And only in Srimati Radharani is found the highest stage. Or in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he stole it from her heart and it became him. He embraced it. He wanted to taste that love. So she is our deity, the greatest servitor of Krishna, who we beg for mercy. We want, that's why we chant Hare Krishna. We want to get her mercy. We want to engage in her service, to engage in the service of Krishna. Gaudiya Vaishnavas engage in the service of Krishna, so they can engage in the service of Srimati Radharani. It's Radha Krishna Prem that Lord Chaitanya is offering. So, there is the mantra, the Gopal Mantra. Lord Chaitanya, he got it from Ishwar Puri. Our Gopal Mantra is 18 syllables. Lord Chaitanya received a 10-syllable Gopal Mantra from Ishwar Puri. By chanting that Gopal Mantra very quickly after having left Gaya, having gone to Kanai Natashala. I know you've been to Kanai Natashala. No! Holy smokes! Yeah, put it on the bucket wish. Is that how you say it? Bucket list. Lord Chaitanya had his first darshan of Krishna at Kanai Natashala. We have a wonderful temple there. Beautiful, scenic. It's still natural, the forest, that beautiful place. But by chanting that mantra his guru gave him, Krishna appeared. Gave him a small little taste, and then he disappeared. Boy, did that light the fire of his desire to glorify Krishna, to serve Krishna, to achieve the association and pleasure of Krishna. So anyway, there's 3 names. You can read this in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya and Chaitanya Charitamrita, so I'm not giving anything away that you can't hear on your own from Srila Prabhupada. But Klim, it's the first word. It's the bija of the mantra. And Klim is understood to represent Radha and Krishna. And it is the seed of desire for love for Krishna. It is the inspiration to develop that seed. And by that bija seed, Klim, it has the ability to reawaken love for Radha and Krishna. Krishnaya. Krishna, another name for Krishna is Madan Mohan. That's another name. Madan is another name for Cupid. Everybody's running after Cupid. Cupid has his bow and arrows. And just like Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, of seasons I am flower-bearing spring. Prabhupada talks about all the flowers and, plants, they come to life. And also, what's in the air? Two brahmacharis said pollen. There's love in the air. There's romance in the air. No, there's lust. And Cupid with his bow is shooting his 5 arrows. She looks beautiful. She sounds beautiful. she smells beautiful, she tastes beautiful, she feels beautiful. The 5 arrows of Cupid. So of course the karmis, the conditioned souls love spring. It's the perfect setting for such activities. So Madan, Cupid. I didn't look up in Wikipedia, what is the deal with Valentine's? I just know, okay, Cupid, that's good enough to go with. So Krishna is the transcendental Cupid. In fact, he puts to shame Cupid. Cupid goes to the Rasa Leela. He goes to Vrindavan. He tries to see what's going on. He tried to do his dirty work. Cupid has no influence over the gopis or Krishna. That's why Krishna is known as Madan Mohan. He defeats, he bewilders, he destroys Cupid's pride. The love for Krishna that all the Vrajvasis, specifically the gopis, and specifically in the highest degree Srimati Radharani, there's not a tinge of Cupid's influence there. It's all selfless and for the pleasure of their beloved. And similarly with Krishna. So Madan Mohan, and we know the Mohani, Madan Mohan Mohani. Krishna, the defeater, the bewilderer of Cupid, is totally bewildered and captured by Srimati Radharani. He's actually her plaything. He's the servant of Srimati Radharani. That's what Gaudiya actually means. Karshnas is the explicit label for those who worship Krishna, excluding Srimati Radharani. Karshnas. Vaishnavas, worshippers of Vishnu. Gaudiyas, worshippers of Radha and Krishna. So anyway, Krishna, and then Govinda, the master of the senses, of the cows, the Brahmins, of Vrindavan. Govinda. Gopi Jana Vallabha. Now we're getting to the worshipful deity for the Gaudiyas. Kintu Vratu Padakama Lord Dasa Dasa Anudasa. Vratu, the Lord of the Gopis, is Gopinath. Another way of naming Krishna. So this Gopal Mantra, 18 syllables, it was given. Would you like to hear how Lord Brahma received that mantra? I've always been somewhat like a little unsure how to describe the levels of Lord Brahma's enlightenment. Would you like to hear how? So we know he appeared on the lotus flower. He didn't know what the heck's going on. It's totally dark. The sun hasn't been created. It's totally dark. And wow, can you imagine being on a stormy... He's on a lotus flower, but it's in the Garbhodaka ocean and winds and what have... It was turbulent and frightening. So what's going on? Who am I? What am I supposed to do? He got off the lotus flower because he wasn't getting anywhere sitting there. And he dove down, went down as far as he could, following the lotus stem. It makes sense that he also went into the water. And he was trying to figure it out. And when he came back to the flower, Krishna reciprocated with the sincerity, his inquiry. And he heard the syllables tapa. So he understood that he should turn inward, not look outward, but turn inward. And shortly thereafter, the Lord spoke the 4 nutshell verses to Brahma from within the heart. So he had the essence of Bhagavatam, understanding who is Krishna, what is Maya, what is devotional service to the Lord, all the energies of the Lord, etc. Chintya Beta Beta Tattva in those 4 verses. And then a little bit later, Divya Saraswati, the divine spiritual consort of the Lord, she gave him the Gopal Mantra, Klim Krishnaya, Govindaya, etc. And he began to meditate upon that. She told him, if you will chant this, all your desires will be fulfilled. See, at this point, his desire wasn't really to reawaken love for God. It was like he had the urge to create. Now, that's somewhat of a selfish desire on his part. That's what he wanted to do. It was obviously dovetailed in the service of the Lord, but Saraswati told him, you chant this mantra and all your desires will be fulfilled. So he began to chant that mantra. This was his tapasya, his penance. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the tapa that he performed, here's another perspective of the word and the activity. He said it means spiritual association. That by chanting and associating with the Gopal Mantra, which means Krishna, then he was purifying himself. And he became a good devotee. And not only did his desire to create would be fulfilled, but also it awakened within him the desire to love Krishna, to know the Lord, to serve him, to love him. And so he continued chanting on the Gopal Mantra, and he would meditate on Radha and Krishna, because it is Krishna and Radha. Krishna stands for Madan Mohan, Govinda stands for Govinda. Sambandha, re-establishing, we're meant to think of the Lord when we aren't self-realized as Madan Mohan. By His grace, by the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, and down through disciplic succession. Worship Him, we can become free of the bewilderment of material attachment and reawaken self-realization, Atma-gyan. It said simply by seeing the eyebrows of the Lord, lust can be destroyed. Madan Mohan has that potency. And when you're steady in your service, no longer wanting sense gratification, gross or subtle, you're qualified to enter into service to the Lord. That's the worshipful deity Govinda, Abhideya. Rupa Goswami is the Acharya. We take shelter, Rupa Nugas, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, etc., which leads to Prem, Gopinath, our worshipful deity. So anyway, he meditated on Radha and Krishna, chanting the Gopal Mantra, and then you know what happened? I want to get this right because I don't really have it realized. But he got darshan, as it's stated in the, I think it's the third canto. He had darshan of Narayan and the Vaikuntha planets. And the Lord shook his hand, said, "You're doing very good. Keep it up." And then, after having had darshan of Vaikuntha and Narayan, then he hears the Kama Gayatri. It's the most important, the most esoteric, the highest of all Gayatri mantras, because it gives Radha Krishna Prem. And how did he hear it? The sound of Krishna's flute. He heard Krishna play his flute. It entered into his 8 ear holes. And Bhaktisiddhanta in the purports in the Brahma Samhita, where this is being described, he says, at that time he developed a desire to become a Manjari servant of the Lord. Although all the details of his identity and services had not been revealed, but that had awakened within his heart. This was real Diksha from Krishna himself. And so then he gave us the Brahma Samhita. We have some verses of the 5th chapter, had 100 chapters, and it was all coming. Jiva Goswami interestingly says that specifically, you know, these verses in the Brahma Samhita, what is it? Alola Chandra Kala Sadvana Maya Vamshi Ratnagadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shaimam Tribanga Lalitam Niyamata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, around whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers, beautified with the moon locket. His 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments. He always revels in pastimes of love. And his graceful threefold bending form of Shyamasundar is always eternally manifest. 30. Venum Kwananta Maravinda. You can chant with me. Venum Kwanantam Aravinda Dalaya Taksham Bhavatam Samastitam Sunarungarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who's adept at playing on his flute, who has eyes like the petals of a blooming lotus, whose head is bedecked with a peacock feather, as a figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and whose unique loveliness is charming millions of cupids. And the last verse, what is this, 51? I won't chant all of it because of time, but Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo, that verse, where he says words, where is it? The transcendental realm of Vrindavan is completely spiritual. The gopis are always present there as Krishna's beloveds. All of them have pure spiritual bodies just like Krishna. In Vrindavan, Krishna is the supreme person, the transcendental lover of all the gopis. The trees in Vrindavan are wish-fulfilling trees. The land is made of touchstone and the water is nectar. Words are musical vibrations. All movements are dancing. The flute is Krishna's constant companion. The planet of Goloka, Vrindavan, is self-luminous like the sun and in full of spiritual bliss. The perfection of life lies in tasting that spiritual existence. Therefore, everyone should cultivate its knowledge. In Vrindavan, spiritual cows are always supplying spiritual milk. Not a single particle of time is wasted there. In other words, there's no past, present, or future. Within this material universe, the devotees worship that transcendental abode as Goloka Vrindavan. Let me worship that spiritual land where Krishna is present. And that was verse 56. So, this all comes from chanting the Gayatri mantras, the Gopal Mantra and the Kama Gayatri. And they purify one to chant the pure holy names. Second initiation gives one the purification and inspiration where one will serve better and better, deeper and deeper mood of trying to give pleasure to the Lord by hearing and chanting the pure names of the Maha Mantra. Last thing I'll say and wrap it up here. Thank you for your tolerance. But I said Cupid has his arrows, 5 arrows, and his bow. Well, Krishna, as Gopi Jana Vallabha, as a transcendental Cupid, he also has his arrows. The Kama Gayatri describes him as Cupid who possesses a bow, a flower bow and flower arrows that strike the heart to completely destroy the illusion of the living entity. Ananga. It's a name for Cupid when his body was burned to ashes trying to disturb Shiva, trying to influence and bewilder Shiva. He came out of samadhi, looked at him, burned his corporal body to ashes. Well, Krishna, Gopinath, by his arrows, hitting the heart of the devotees, he destroys all their material attachment and instead transforms it into pure love for him. So Srimati Radharani, this is talking about the arrows of Krishna, said, "Hey, Vishake, Govinda's bodily effulgence is more beautiful than a monsoon cloud, and his gorgeous garments resemble lightning. Krishna's captivating flute enhances his elegance, and his face outshines the autumn moon. A peacock-feathered crown rests upon his head, and the necklace of pearls and jewels adorning his broad chest look like a row of stars. O Saki, the sight of Krishna's incomparable beauty is saturating my eyes with bliss." Okay, next arrow. Krishna's deep voice resounds like a rumbling cloud, and his tinkling ornaments allure the ears. Krishna's joking has seductive hidden meanings, and his charming flute playing steals the hearts of all chaste women. O Vishake, my ears are totally captivated by Krishna. Next arrow. The fragrance of Govinda's body conquers the aroma of musk to enslave all women. The 8 richly scented lotuses of his body are more fragrant than a mixture of lotus flowers and camphor. His body is anointed with the finest aguru, camphor, chandan, and musk. Needless to say, these wonderful fragrances are continually thrilling my nose. Hey Sake, I'm intensely eager to touch Krishna's broad chest, which is enticing as a sapphire pillar. His strong arms bolt the door of the gopis' hearts from the attack of Cupid's arrows. Govinda's body is more soothing than moonbeams, chandan, camphor, and a lotus combined. Last arrow, the nectar of Krishna's sweet lips removes the desire for any other taste. However, that nectar is attainable only for one possessing heaps of pious assets. The remnants of Krishna's pond conquer the sweetness of nectar. O Vishake, my tongue is becoming mad to relish the sweet taste of Krishna. Those are 5 verses from Govinda Lilamrita. Srila Prabhupada one time asked the devotees early on, would you like to know what it feels like to kiss Krishna? It's a pretty esoteric question, but he asked the devotees, would you? Maybe at some point you'll be able to have an answer. But he said, if you do, then relish the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what the class has been about, attempted to be about. I'm sorry for being so long-winded. Kamadev Ki. Any questions or comments? Short? I would certainly be brief. First arrow was it the sight? Yeah, because he's so beautiful, dressed, garments, etc. Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Radha Girdhari. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam and the assembled Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna.